Today I'm going to show you how to install a new radio in your Toyota Corolla. So in order to remove the stock radio in this Corolla, we have to remove these two side trims here. So we just have to pull up here and pull this side trim off. Pull this other side trim off here. And then we can also pop off the plate around the shifter. Next up, we have to remove these two side trim pieces here. So I'm just going to use my brother's old toothbrush here, wedge it in, and then I can pop this trim piece free. So next we're going to remove this top vent panel. Just going to reach in here and pull it straight up and move it off to the back. Now this vehicle already has a backup camera installed, but we're going to be integrating that into the head unit that we install. The next thing to do is to remove these two 10mm bolts on the side of the radio, on the right side here. And there's two 10mm bolts on this side of the radio inside of here. Next we're just going to pull the radio straight out. Take off this faceplate. Pull this out. And then see at the back here, just going to disconnect all of these wires. There we go. And we can remove this radio. So here's all the components that we have for this project. We have this Pioneer touchscreen radio that we're going to be installing. We also got the dash kit as well as the wiring harness for this Toyota, which you had to purchase separately. There's also an additional wire harness we're going to need for the antenna. We have the wiring harness which came with the head unit itself. We've got instructions here. We have a microphone for the Bluetooth here, a couple of screws, and a USB cable, and the head unit itself. You see it's a touch screen, doubled in. On the back here we have all of our connections, including USB, auxiliary, video input. The wiring harness goes in here, and the Bluetooth microphone and antenna. Now we need to solder the wiring harness from the Toyota side to the Pioneer side. These kits go together. Now in order to decode this on the metric kit, these are actually labeled. So in this case it's a right rear positive speaker. And each one of these wires are labeled here. On the Pioneer side, we need to use the instruction manual to decipher which color correlates to which function on this wiring harness, and then wire them together. Luckily both of these are all pre-stripped, so you just have to remove them like that. So here we have the two yellow wires. We're going to connect them to power. These get twisted together just like that. I'm going to drop some solder on here. Now don't be like me and forget to put the heat shrink on. Now I have to unwind these two. We're going to put the heat shrink over one of the wires here and then twist these wires together. So in order to decipher the speaker on this wiring diagram, if I go down here to number 8, it says it's the white wire with the black stripe, which is this one here on the wiring diagram that came with the radio. So I'm going to go over here to number 8, which shows me the negative side of the front left speaker. So I'll correlate that with the Metro wiring harness, which is this one over here. I'll put a piece of heat shrink over this wire here. Now the speaker wires are not stripped, so I'm going to have to strip those. And then I can connect it to the white wire with the black stripe on the Metro harness. So now we're going to solder the wires. Just going to warm up that wire nice. Coming with a little bit of solder. Put it down on that side. Then I'll flip the wire over to this side here. Warm that up again. And drop a little bit of solder on there. So next I'm going to heat shrink this. So I'll just fold the wire back around itself and push it inside the heat shrink. And I'll use the heat gun. So here we've got the wiring harness complete. The only thing we have to connect to the vehicle is the reverse input signal over here. And this is ready to plug into the back of the radio, and then these two into the car's wiring harness. So the metric kit comes with these two spacers that bolt onto the side of the radio and fit inside of here. Now this bezel itself is actually the same as the OEM bezel, and it's a little bit more flimsy, so I'm going to stick with using the OEM bezel. If you do have to change the bezel, you just have to remove these clips and transfer them over to the metric kit. So I'm going to remove the bracket from the old radio because we have to transfer that to the new radio. And this went on like... Then we have to put the spacer on. The spacer fits on like that. And now I'm going to install the supplied screws. So here I've got the microphone that we're going to connect. I'm going to leave it here at the A pillar. We'll install it into here. So just pop back that A pillar, route the wire inside like that, bring it around the back, and then pop the pillar back in. And then I'm going to run the wire down this way, down the weather stripping all the way down to the side here. Alright, so the rest of the microphone wire has to make its way over to the speaker. So once you remove two screws here, I'm just going to pop this panel back over here. And then that gives me access underneath the driver's side panel to zip tie this wire and send it over towards the radio that way. And here you can see I've got the microphone wire pulled through from the driver's side footwell, and we're going to plug it into the stereo. Next up, we're going to wire this USB cable down into the dash. So I ran the USB cable down through the footwell over here and then back up into the radio to be plugged in. So now I'm just going to zip tie this wiring harness all together so we can make things nice and neat behind the dash. So now I'm going to plug this into the car wiring. So I've got this adapter here, which is for Toyotas. We're going to plug this in to convert the FM AM signal to this universal style antenna, and that just plugs in like that. So here I've got the line for the reverse trigger that goes into the radio. I'm going to tie that over to this red line here, which goes into my video cable and gets routed to the back of the vehicle, and that's going to give 12-volt signal to the radio to put it in backup mode when I put the car in reverse. At the back of the vehicle we have the reverse light, and we have the positive side that comes off of it here. And I've tied that reverse trigger line over into this line here that goes to power the backup camera. So it's also going to get a 12-volt signal going out to the front of the vehicle to the stereo. So here we've got the reverse trigger wire soldered into the reverse wire here. And I'm just going to put a piece of heat shrink over that. And now I'm just going to heat shrink this connection. So I'm just going to connect my trigger wire over to the trigger wire on the radio side, and we're just going to put a little bit of solder on that wire. So with the heat shrink over there, I'm just going to use a heat gun to warm it up. So we've got all our connections made behind the dashboard, and we're ready to install the new head unit. First thing I'm going to plug in here is the microphone, and that sits on the back over here. Then I'm going to plug in the radio antenna, which sits over here. Then I'm going to plug in the main harness, which is over here. Then I'm going to plug in the backup camera on this side here to the video input. And then finally I'm going to plug in my USB cable over here. Make sure all the connections are tight. And then I'm going to slowly set this into the dashboard. There we go. So now before we close up this dashboard, we're going to test the radio to see if it works. So I'll just turn the key into the on position, and then we'll watch the radio start up here. You can see if I go to the home button, I'm going to test out the radio. And yeah, it sounds like the radio is working. So now I'll go to Bluetooth, and I can connect my phone and stream music, as well as go to calls as well. So everything's working. Last thing to check, I'm going to put the car into reverse, and you can see that the backup camera is also working. So now we can close up everything. So now I'm just going to tighten up these 10mm bolts on the radio. So next I'm going to install this faceplate, and then now we're going to install the vent at the top here. Just make sure that wire's out of the way, and line it up and press it in. So now I'm going to install the trims on the side here. So just line up these clips and click it in. Then finally we're going to install this bottom trim here. So just line up all of these clips and click it in. And that's pretty much how you install an aftermarket stereo on your Corolla. And the bonus is we've also got a free panel removal tool that we can use later. Make sure you follow me on Instagram for more behind the scenes footage, and subscribe for more videos just like this one.